There's an alien interview film about to be released. This did slip away from a government facility. I know this film is real. I have the military paper that had me assigned to Area 51. We have craft and beans there. I got it all. Names, dates, photos, videos. One thing I would like to say, please don't cut this out. I just want you to know that today we're going to be poking the hornet's nest.
Okay.
And I hope you're prepared. The serendipity, the bizarre cosmic coincidences for the past 5 years in my life, and with this video, I think even a person that isn't religious or spiritual would say, this guy, there's some cosmic divineness going, there's some cosmic energy going on here where just things have just been one after another falling into place. And all I can say is the coincidences are not coincidences. There's some kind of bizarre weirdness and timing with this video.
Can you break down a quick timeline of the footage?
First time we ever hear of alien interview is a CIA pilot, famous ufologist John Lear, in 1987 tells George Knapp on a local Las Vegas TV, there's an alien interview film about to be released. 1989, Bob Lazar comes out, says I worked at this crazy, bizarre facility called S4, south of Area 51. We have craft and he thinks beans there. Right. And we're reverse engineering both, examining both. 1991, we know now, this film is shot with this bean. I want to be very clear, all telepathic, or they call them thought projection interviews, were filmed by the government audiovisual department, every single one of them. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of interrogations of these beings on film. And Victor then, that film is smuggled out in 91 by an Air Force cameraman. The cabal sits on it for 5 years. Victor in 1996 starts making the rounds in Los Angeles to try and get a network to release this. And he eventually ends up at Rocket Pictures, a second-tier video production company. They agree to keep his name, his anonymity. They agree on a payment. He does not want to come on camera, but they say that's part of the deal. And in 1997, on an upstart network, on a brand new show called Strange Universe that was sorely underfunded, this comes out as a 1 hour special documentary, The Alien Interview. And that is where I see it for the first time. But I was sitting in my living room going, what am I watching here? This gray alien is tan. The medics are not in pressurized suits. If you and I were hoaxing a video, we would have had those medics in pressurized suits. And really, there's two Army generals in the foreground. Their shoulders are getting into the shot. It looked really, really bad. Or it looked like just a run-of-the-mill casual taping of an alien of an extraterrestrial being interviewed. And I thought it could have been a hoax, but there were so many things, especially Victor, the whistleblower, who talked so scientifically that it sat in the back of my mind like something's not right with this film. I'm not saying it's authentic. Something. I'm a smart individual. I'm cagey. I'm street smart, and my street smarts were being poked like something's not right with this film. This sticks in my brain until 1999. I run for Congress. And I drop out and I endorse the man called Mark Kirk, who later became the congressman and a one-term senator for Illinois. He was in naval intelligence before he became a congressional aide. So we're on the bus and I said, Mark, what is DNI? This is the little three-letter abbreviation on the bottom of that film. I said, is the Department of Naval Intelligence real? And he gasped and he went, oh, the DNI, and he kind of faded in reflection. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy just coughed on himself about 3 letters on an alleged hoax film, and that's when I said, some point in my life, I'm gonna find out about this film if somebody doesn't already come forward to tell me about it. And I was semi-retired. It's 2019, and for some reason, Matthew, I was in my car. This film was on my brain, which happened a lot. And I said, I'm gonna find something about this film. I'm gonna prove something fake about this film so I can move on with my life and put this out of my head. And I investigated that bizarre monitor, the blip, the green blip that goes up and down and not across. I talked to 3 PhD fellows fellows who were doing the history of physiological monitors. I talked to Space Labs, who made monitors for NASA. I talked to Hewlett Packard, that were making monitors in the early 90s when this film was done. All of them shrugged their shoulders and said, we have no idea. The man at Space Labs says, I think you're looking at a one-off. I said, what's a one-off? He said, that's a device made for one particular purpose. It's not made in a series. It's just there's one of them, one off. And he goes, and I think that's what you're looking at there. And I said, wait a minute. This cheap production company on a cheap upstart network with no money has made a monitor that no one knows what the hell we're looking at. And we've got 3 letters on the bottom of this film that just made a congressman who was in naval intelligence choke on his words. Well, you know, that's when I said something's not right. I still think it's fake, but I'm going to put the pedal to the metal and investigate it. And that's what I did in January of 19.
Tell me first, when did you even see it? Because there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
You must have.
1997, it came out on the UPN network, which was an upstart network. And that's one of the hallmarks of this entire investigation was the lack of money. Follow the money. I did follow the money. The lack of money. Upstart network, UPN network. I don't even know if it's still around. I think it's maybe called I don't even know if it's still around. On a upstart program called Strange Universe that didn't pay its employees for the first 4 episodes because they lacked the funding. Right. And so this crazy, well-done animatronic alien allegedly comes on this program for a 1-hour special. And I was in my condo downtown going, what am I looking at? This thing is tan. I thought gray aliens are gray. It's got round eyes. Its mouth is opening. Foam is coming out of the mouth. This highly scientific scientist, the whistleblower Victor, is talking about it. I know he's not an actor. You can't write what he wrote, what he said. He comes back on a radio show, Art Bell, Coast to Coast, to hype for marketing for the documentary, and he answers an hour and a half of unrehearsed questions. And in 97, I just said, I don't know when, but somehow I'm going to find out the truth in this film. And I sat around till 08, waiting for, somebody to come out to say my uncle built the animatronic alien.
Right.
I did the craft. I fed the people for that production that day. I did the accounting. No one. Victor comes back in 08. He is goading the skeptics. A hoaxer? I mean, you're more street smart than me. A hoaxer comes back and says, "Come on, where are you? Where are you people? Why haven't you investigated me? If it's so easy to make this puppet, make one. If I'm a fake, find out who I am."
So who is Victor in the film? Is he in the film? And is he the person that shot the film? Like you're saying, the whistleblower. Is he the person that got the film out and just disseminated it?
Great question. Victor is the person that claimed to have made a copy of it and was called the active agent who removed this from Area 51 and out of that facility. We now know that is not entirely true from our investigation. It was actually a United States Air Force cameraman that was the active agent that made the second copy. It was a 16-millimeter film and took this off of Area 51. A group of disgruntled employees of S4 and this extraterrestrial program would meet in Las Vegas. They waited 5 years. I can see your brain going like this. These are not hoax. This is not the hallmark. A hoaxer gets it out and give me the money. Give me the money. They wait 5 years and then release the film and sell it to Rocket Pictures. I mean, nothing makes sense.
Okay, so let's assume that this is a real alien, right? How does Victor saying that the alien the alien ended up on the military base being, they say it's an interview, but it seems more like they're like a medical exam or something. But anyway, so being examined or interviewed, whatever.
Yeah.
How does he come about to be there? Does Victor know that?
Yes, Victor said the alien being arrived in 1989, and we have corroborating people telling us that yes, this being arrived, crashed in a craft. 3 other occupants, pilots who we don't know the disposition of them, whether they were alive or dead, and came to the S4 facility in 1989. Died soon after the interview program. He was the one we saw. He perished soon after that interview that we did see.
You ever see Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yeah.
So Colby's never seen it. Oh yeah, great film. Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss,
Yeah.
Terry Garr, yeah.
Yeah, he witnesses a UFO, and he's just a normal, like he's a troubleshooter for I want to say the phone
A
company,
lineman, yeah.
for an electric company.
Yeah, as a lineman for the electric company.
And he just happens to be out driving, and he just witnesses it. Like there's no interaction really, I don't think, not much anyway. But for some reason, it changes his entire psyche, and he can't get it out of his mind.
Nope.
And he starts sculpting this mountain,
Yeah.
which is a very odd looking mountain, like
Yeah.
it's super weird looking. And he's sculpting it. I mean, he abandons his duties as a father, as a husband. He's ignoring his
This sounds
family,
familiar.
ignoring his family, just
Yeah.
is focused 100% on this whole thing, and it's driving him. And it ends up, as he's building, like his wife takes the kids and leaves, like we're done, like you're crazy. He's building this huge sculpture inside the house,
In his living room.
He's got dirt from out in the yard. He's building this whole. He's got little tiny
Bushes.
shrubs he's put in as trees. Like it's insane. It's all the way up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And you're going, this is nuts. He's sculpting it. He just keeps looking at it. He can't get it out of his mind. And then one day, as everything's falling around, like he loses his job, like everything's just going to crap. He's sitting there and he happens to turn and he sees the same mountain on a news program. And he sees it. This is a mountain, like if you looked at it, you're like, this, it doesn't even look like, it looks like nothing you've ever seen. But he looks at it and he's like, and it's literally, it's the same thing that's sitting in his living room. And that tells him, I have to go there. That's what I'm seeing. That's why I can't get that. I have to go there. And when he gets there, there's tons of people just like him there. It turns out that the military has made up this complete fabricated story that something has gone wrong. There's gases or something in the area. Everybody has to wear their masks. They tell all these, they've evacuated the town around this. Nobody can come in the area. But the truth is, this area has been chosen to receive an alien ship, which has kind of sent a signal that is saying, like, we're coming here to where this mountain is. And it's sent out this, I don't know what it is, but it's all these people around the world have seen this image and are all headed there. Not everybody. And if you hadn't seen it, you may still be in your country drawing sketches of this image that you just don't know where to go. He just happened to see the news program. This is back in the 80s. Where it's
70s.
70s, sorry, where information is not readily available. So you have to be, there's probably thousands of people that have seen this image or in their mind and never saw the TV program. Just happened that maybe these 40 or 50 people did. They get there, the military's saying, hey, you can't stay here. They're flying them out in helicopters. This guy and a few people end up escaping the military, getting to the mountain, and getting to the location when the aliens come down. And it's Close Encounters of the third or fourth kind. And they take him onto the ship and it flies away. But it was such an amazing movie because there's just been nothing like that out there.
Yep.
And that, so it just I don't know why it jumped into my mind that you're like, I just couldn't get this out of my mind. I couldn't get it out of my mind. Because obviously it didn't have the effect on everybody.
Right.
But anyway, so you're investigating. Sorry for that. But I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
So you decide, I'm looking into this. You start looking into it. So what's the first? So you find out about the one-off device.
Right.
And so is there other things that happen, or you suddenly get contacted?
No, I said to myself, well, okay, I'm all full of, chutzpah, but I don't know where to go. I'm not a ufologist. I don't know anybody in the military. What do I do? But from watching documentaries from the 70s as a little kid, and being into ufology and cryptozoology and interested in all of that, I know that at times researchers who come out on radio programs, television, or write a book, sometimes those people do get contacted by deep insiders with inside knowledge. This happens a lot. They'll get a canister of 8mm film to their house. They'll get a document sent to them anonymously. So I said, who can I contact to metastasize this investigation? So I called an old podcaster, old radio program, still on the air. He's been on since like 90 whatever. His name is Jeff Rentz on the jeffrentz.com internet radio show. And he said, I know this video. I believe this video is real. Come on, I'll help you. Get the word out that you're starting to investigate it. And that's what I did. And I was humble. I had my hat in my hand, begging the UFO community or the military, someone to help me, someone to give me any information, whether it's real or not. Remember, I'm going at this as a hoax. That's what a scientist does. You go at something to prove it's not true, not like, I know it's true, I'm going to ram it down your... I didn't do that. Lo and behold, this happened in right before Memorial Day. I go on his program. All my emails get swiped off my phone. So after the interview, he's like, oh, you did a great job. I hope it helps out. I go to his producer. I said, all of my emails have been removed from my iPhone. Producer goes, that happens all the time. I'm like, what? Because it happens all the time. Weirdness to all of our guests. It's just part of the landscape. I'm like, I'm not part of your landscape. I'm like, who's doing this? He's like, well, what do you think? We think the government has been monitoring us for years. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, whatever. 2 weeks later, in about the middle of June, I get my first email from a person. And it just simply says, I caught your interview on Jeff Rentz. I'll never forget the language. You got some things right. You got some things wrong. I'm knowledgeable of these programs. If I can give your investigation a nudge, I'll never forget that word, I will do so. And he emails me once a month for 9 months. In between that, I contact a very mysterious and controversial figure in ufology, a former counterintelligence agent with the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations. His name is Rick Doty. People in ufology, of course, know him, and a lot of people have a knee-jerk reaction to him. But he's the only person in the world that says, I have the DD-214, the military paper that had me assigned to Area 51. And I told him about this. My wife contacted him on Facebook. I called him. He's like, you're on a very interesting endeavor. And, kind of feeling me out if I was a goof, right, what I was going to do. And again, I could see this was a pattern with intelligence people. They just don't reveal everything at once. They feel you out. They
want to see if you're a crackpot or not.
And it was interesting. Here's this counterintelligence agent that's supposed to give you all the bullshit, whether tell you it's real, it's fake, or, and he tells me, I don't know much about that film, but one thing I do know, it's real. And I'm like, you're sure? He goes, I'm 1,000% sure. He goes, and that's probably one of the only films out there on the internet right now that does show and depict an actual extraterrestrial. I said, do you know who Victor is? I don't know who Victor is. Do you know about S4? He said, yeah, I know S4, but that wasn't the facility that film was shot. I'm like, excuse me? He said, John, there's a ground floor building south of Papoose Lake, or south of Area 51. It's called S2, the S2 Alpha, Site 2, S2 Annex. It's the ground floor building, and that sits above this underground labyrinth of biocontainment facilities, research facilities, biological labs, and whatnot. And he said, that's where the AHC is. I'm like, what's the AHC? He goes, well, that's the alien housing complex. And I'm doing okay, Mr. Counterintelligence Agent, the alien housing complex. He said, look, I'll tell you, I've never been down to levels of 2, 3, and 4, but I was stationed above ground. I was the counterintelligence agent. I had to be briefed in what was going on in that facility. So I knew without seeing in person what was going on in that facility, and that was the housing center for the alien interrogation and retention. They would retain these beings, and they would telepathically interrogate them. He went on after months to tell me some of the beings had to live in like these bizarre hyperbaric chambers. One being could only breathe methane gas, so they had to outfit a chamber with only in methane. One they had to put in like almost like a biosphere. And my creature, the alien they show on my videotape, was in distress. And Victor says it was developing a microbial bacteria in its respiratory system. Even though they kind of had a defense mechanism for that, they were still receptive to our microbial bacteria. And that being was very sick. And even that being had to have like bariatric chamber treatment. So a very weird, bizarre, complex, and a very weird story that was playing out that was not refuting Victor's testimony, but was bearing truth to what Bob Lazar said and Victor. And let me just jump back real quickly. A security guard who claimed to be a assassin for the CIA said during his cooling off periods between assassinations, he was stationed at S4. So were other workers for the CIA that did contract work for the CIA that were in the military. They were stationed below at this facility in their cooling off periods. And he said, yes, there was dead aliens there. There were live aliens there, I heard. And he, again, a liar would be like, I saw the beings. I worked with the beings. He goes, I was never allowed in level 2, 3, and 4. Right. I never saw a live alien, but I saw the dead ones in 6 biofluid containment chambers, but I never saw a live one. So I'm just saying, if you're to lie, if you're to hoax this, if you're a counterintelligence agent trying to bullshit this car dealer from Chicago, me, you would tell him crazy stories. I find it funny that all of these people are telling me stories that are not hyperbolic. I saw the aliens, I worked with them, or whatnot. Even Victor says, I was not stationed there, but I had a reason to be at that underground facility at times. I wouldn't say that if I was hoaxing. I would be like, I was the scientist. I touched the bodies. Just bizarre stuff that this coincidence of, and I can't think of I can't think of a good word, Matthew, but it's almost like this firewall with these people where I thought the stories were accurate because they weren't going the full Monty of, oh yes, I was around these beings and whatnot.
Aren't most facilities set up so that they're compartmentalized? Like Snowden's, when he describes being in these facilities, he talks about how like this department has no interaction with this department, and you get in the building and you have kind of carte blanche, but only within your departments, right? So it's not, you're not walking to different departments. I know just from, because I was an insurance adjuster for, I don't know, 6 months to a year, we all use the same system, but like you couldn't go on the actuarial part of that system, and the agents couldn't go on the part that the adjusters went on, and the appraisers couldn't go on. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't change anything. Maybe you could see it, but you couldn't alter anything. Like most things are especially in government bodies, are compartmentalized.
You did your homework. I'm impressed. Yes, even Bob Lazar says, I worked on propulsion, but propulsion for this craft only. There was other people that worked on avionics maybe, or some other part, or some other flight controls or life support of this craft. And Bob Lazar said, we weren't allowed to even talk to each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, shouldn't be any interaction unless you approach like your superior and say, look, I need to talk to this person. And they would probably bring you together in a room to have a discussion.
Exactly. We even have a biologist that's alleged biologist who says, I worked on tissue, but somebody else would work on the reproductive, if there was reproductive. Somebody else would work on the respiratory, and we weren't allowed to talk. And even Victor gives a bizarre, and even Bob Lazar and Victor both give a bizarre, a little antidote where the propulsion sat at this lunch table, avionics sat at this table, metallurgy sat at that table, didn't communicate with each other. And Bob Lazar said it was that lack of imagination, that lack of communication that was the Achilles heel of this program, where scientists should be collaborating and talking with each other. And Victor and Bob Lazar and many other people that I've talked to in this program say the same exact repetitive story. There was very normal, average intelligence at the top of this program. We weren't allowed to talk to each other, and that's where we could have solved of things by communicating. We were never allowed to. Highly, highly compartmentalized.
So for people that don't know, who is Bob Lazar?
Okay, Bob Lazar is a man.
Colby doesn't know, by the way.
Okay. This is very interesting. although he has a sketchy background, but because I believe he was sheep dipped, and he's had a sketchy background.
Sheep dipped. What does that mean?
Okay, sheep dipped is the military intelligence term of publicly removing any of your bio that might directly relate back to what you did in covert projects.
Okay.
So Matthew Cox says, I was a biologist and I went to Harvard and I was an expert in microbiology and I was down in this facility examining aliens. They would do their best to have Harvard wipe out your degree in your education or try and make it very difficult for you to prove that you went to Harvard.
Right, and they say
to discredit you.
Right, and that you say I worked for the government. They say he did work for the government because we can't erase the fact that we deposited checks, but he was actually a janitor in this building over here, and he never even got close to Area 51.
You got
It's
it.
a totally different state.
You
from
got
everybody's
it.
talking
You
about.
got it, brother.
To make you look incompetent.
Yeah, exactly. And so Bob Lazar comes forward to KALS TV and George Knapp, a reporter who's the famous ufologist now, or reporting on this phenomenon. And he says, look, I worked at this facility. He mentions for the first time Area 51. The facility was called S4, and I worked on reverse propulsion. Everybody's, just exploded the TV networks and all over the country and in Asia and whatnot. And his story has never changed in 30 years. He claimed to be working on an element called 115, which was the element that the beings use for their anti-gravitics or their 0-point energy device. And highly, very intelligent person. But he claimed, again, so people are like, well, he claimed out for fame and fortune. Now we find out he came out because the people at this facility stopped contacting him to come out and go and work at the facility. He would get a call, be at Las Vegas airport at 11 p.m. You're going to go to the facility. They stopped calling him. He thinks that they're going to whack him, that they're going to assassinate him.
Right.
Because he was talking to John Lear, that pilot that came out in 1986. Come to find out was Bob Lazar's wife was having an affair, and they figured he was compromised now. Bob Lazar was compromised. The wife's having an affair because they tapped his phones, but they couldn't tell him that they tapped his phones and that his wife was having an affair. But so it was a convoluted. So I think it's important to know that the first time someone comes out really talks about S4 and working there, it's because he's afraid of getting killed, not because he wants $1,000 or a Corvette or whatnot. So that's the Bob Lazar story. And in 30 years, his story has not changed. That he worked on advanced propulsion or reverse engineering of alien propulsion. He tells a weird anecdotal story that I have backed up with 4 other people. How the craft, even though they're not manned, sitting in these hangars out at this S2 Annex, S2 Alpha, this S4 facility, some of them give off this electrostatic discharge where that security guard, the assassin said he would put Vaseline on his arms to keep the hair from rising up when he was guarding these crafts. That is just 2 of a weird, minute, bizarre, anecdotal story that I've heard 4 times now that makes me think that Bob Lazar was there. And then the bombshell, I have a group of people that have the logbook, the entry logbook into Area 51. And they said Bob Lazar's name is on that logbook from 1988 to 1990. He was there for about 92 days, allowed entry. And they have his name on this entry logbook, officially placed him there. But you're right. Was he just doing electronic repair? A janitor? We'll never know. Sure.
But so the government do they admit that he was there, and what do they say?
Nothing.
Nothing. They don't
claim.
Respond at all.
Here's another bizarre coincidence. The same man that Victor claims got him into this facility is the same man Bob Lazar claims got him into this facility. Under desperation to try and figure out the propulsion and everything about the makeup of these non-human craft, a man named Dr. Teller, the inventor or one of the inventors of the atomic Manhattan Project, the invention of the atomic bomb, was so desperate that he let Bob Lazar go into this facility trying to get like an outsider's opinion, which is very smart. You're a businessman, you know. Let me get we call it putting somebody else's eyes on our problem or situation. And Victor says the man that got him down into S4 was Dr. Teller. So we have a coincidental man that's tangentially related to two whistleblowers. Just another coincidence.
Okay, so let's go back to you were being contacted by someone every month, and you were doing an investigation. You were being kind of prodded along, helped.
I believe so.
And so what happened at that point?
On my birthday.
Okay. On your birthday?
That's shocking. No, I'm a public figure. I ran for office. I was a professional wrestler. It's not easy, but you can find my birthday. On my birthday, I get an email. In the memo, it says, "From the horse's mouth." And I want to be very specific here. And I've been doing a good job being specific here. So, because people demand that in the UFO community. Okay. My main leaker that was emailing me for 9 months sent me a forwarded email to him from a person in the DIA. Who's the DIA? Allegedly, and Rick Doty backs this up, this is the government agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency that runs the umbrella that is the entire alien retention and interview and reverse engineering program. It's called Project Aquarius, and it is the umbrella program for all contact with extraterrestrials and Homo sapiens sapiens. And the DIA runs this in conjunction with other agencies and other, military, like the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Institute of Pathology, which no one ever talks about in ufology, the Department of Energy. So, and my leaker's in his 70s, so he's not a computer expert. So he mistakenly includes the person from the DIA's email in his email to me. And the email is what's called an unauthorized viewing. That's what they called the theft of this film. You and I would have said the theft of the alien interview. No, the DIA called it an unauthorized viewing. And very simple, it was his friend at the DIA telling him, here's the date of this film, here's what type of being it was, haploid, Haploid, haploid. It was a CBE cloned biological entity, extraterrestrial entity. The filming date was April 22nd, 1991 at 3:15 in the afternoon. This segment was being filmed for the Department of Naval Intelligence, DNI. And I still get like weirdness because my hand was shaking. I looked down and there are names of military men. These were the men that were in the viewing gallery at the time of this interview. And it started mentioning doctors, vice admirals, captains of Army and Navy intelligence. And it said Carthusian monks. I'm like, what? I was in a McDonald's outside of Gary, Indiana, at a rest stop off the highway. My hand was shaking, like I'm getting names there's like a realness to this video. And I went on the internet just in a cursory search and started putting in these men's names. And I'm getting Wikipedia bio photos of these military men that I've never heard of, but they're all part of military intelligence to some degree. I look up Carthusian monk, and it's a monastery in Mount Equinox, Vermont. And I'm like, okay, just, let me go home. And so for 4 months, I started researching all these men on the list. I find out that all of them were dead except one. And I started emailing him. And he started emailing me back. His name was Vice Admiral William Jacoby. But on the... Now I want Matthew Cox's yay or nay here. On the report from 91, it said Captain William Jacoby. Now, I'm sorry, Captain Lowell Jacoby. So I said, wait a minute, I'm on Wikipedia. He's a vice admiral. This is a hoax. My investigator goes, dude.
Yeah, he keeps getting raised up through the ranks, right?
There you go. Thank you.
You don't stay
Thank you. Okay. So I'm like,
Yeah, you don't stay a corporate or a lieutenant or
Right.
for very long if you're a military guy.
ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. So I'm saying to myself, as a 75-year-old man who I Googled my leaker, he's a prominent philanthropist, member of a metropolitan city society. If you Googled his name, the main leaker, which I will never reveal, you'd see him and his wife on the red carpet somewhere in a metropolitan city. This guy is going to think of to put the ranks in 91. So I start emailing this vice admiral. I'm a documentarian, which I wasn't at the time. So on and so forth. We're like internet buddies. I'm just going to go to Virginia, ask this guy to play golf. He finally says, look, you contacted me for a reason. What do you have? What do you want to ask me? And I sent him the list, not knowing this guy was also a former DIA director. So I sent him the inter-office memorandum, the investigation of this film, and he ghosted me. And I think in 2022 when that happened, and when you ghost somebody electronically, that speaks volumes. He didn't say, you're freaking crazy, you're nuts. Where did you get this? Aliens? Are you insane? Go to a psych ward. He just said nothing. People in the military have told me that when an honorable military person does not want to lie to you, they just won't talk to you. They won't say anything. They won't answer anything. So I thought that was really bizarre.
Well, and to keep from getting in trouble yourself, you should immediately contact the authorities or whoever the higher ups are. And even if you're retired, you don't really have in military intelligence, you don't have the privilege of saying, I just threw it away and you didn't think to tell us. So he probably contacted somebody and they said, look, we'll look into it. Don't talk to the guy again.
I know he did.
Oh, okay.
I know he did. So I go back.
I'm good.
You are. And this is why I flew here, because you get it. And I love that about you. Rick Doty, months later, says, I don't want to scare you and I don't want to alarm you.
But don't start your car this morning.
He goes, I'm having a conversation with a friend of mine in DIA. Totally unrelated. This guy starts turning the conversation towards, there's a lot of stuff out there. We're starting to get a bunch of FOIAs about Papoose Dry Lake. That's like the code name because that's where the alien complex allegedly resides. And Rick Doty goes, well, that's interesting. I know a guy that's investigating it. And this is Rick Doty telling me. And I said, do you guys know a Jon Stewart? And Rick said, this guy went, ho. And I'm sorry, I'm loud. Ho. You goddamn right we know who Jon Stewart is. He goes, that guy has sent up trip flares at DIA. And Rick said he went like, oh, yeah, he's contacted me and kind of just fluffed it off. And Rick said, I just want you to be very careful what you're doing. Don't thumb your nose in anybody's face. Just tread very carefully. Because I was sending FOIA requests to the DIA. What, do you have any information on this coded document? What's S2 Alpha? S2 Alpha was never in the ufology nomenclature. I was the first person with Rick Doty to bring this to the surface. So, yeah, the DIA must have shit on themselves when they saw that in a federal FOIA request, Federal Freedom of Information request.
Freedom of
Information request.
Which anybody can request. And supposedly any government body is supposed to give you the information if it's available.
I almost choked on my water. Yeah.
But they a lot of times sometimes they'll say, oh, it's an active investigation, or due to national security, or we can't release that information. And so that's kind of a catch-all. Anything they don't want to give you, they can just say, oh, it's national security. We can't give it to you. Which is funny because, like, if I'm requesting something that's silly or untrue, why would you use that as your reason? Like, there must be something there. Or you could, because what they should say is, we got nothing on this. We don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Right. Exactly. Why I was told why the government never prosecuted all these 3 or 4 men about this film theft. Prosecute them. You're going to bring this in court with discovery? I thought this is a fake. I thought this is a fake alien interview. Why are you prosecuting somebody for the theft of it?
Well, wait a minute. I was about to say Guantanamo Bay hadn't been opened yet, but When was Guantanamo? Yeah, it was. It was
01.
2001.
Yeah, I mean, they could have.
Yeah.
I don't know when this investigation of that. Yeah.
How do you drag someone there if you're not saying they're a terrorist? You drag them
Right.
there, that would hit the news. Like, okay, they just
Right.
some black helicopter scooped down, picked up some woman's husband and 3 other fucking random guys
Right.
and brought them to Guantanamo Bay and won't tell the wives and family members where they're at. That's
Right.
going to raise some suspicion.
A clandestine leaker, anonymous, says, FOIA this code of a document. Okay. Doo-doo. I'm FOIAing and calling the DIA so much, I'm friends with them. The head of the government disclosure for the FOIA, her name is Cheryl. She calls me, the alien guy. I'm like, sure, you're going to talk about me at Thanksgiving dinner, all my
Right.
craziness? She's like, Mr. Stewart, no. Yeah, okay, we got that document, blah, blah, blah. It's about a month. I call up, a guy's name is Andrew at the FOIA desk. I said, where is my FOIA response? He said, give me your name. I give him my name. He goes, this is really weird. Folks, listen to me here. This is a government agent. This is really weird. Andrew, what's weird? Well, your name is here, but there's no file attached. I said, what's weird about that? Happy-go-lucky guy, helpful, first name Andrew, nice guy. I want to make sure I mention that. He said, you can't get on this file. You can't get on the FOIA system here without having a file attached. And I do and? He goes, well, somebody had to come on here and remove it, but left your name. He goes, this is really weird. Not thinking what he's getting himself into. He said, I'll call you back. I wait, hour and a half, he calls me back. This is Andrew. Yeah. You're going to get an email from Cheryl Robinson or Cheryl Davidson soon. And, we found it. Real curt, real short-tempered, not
Right.
friendly anymore. Like somebody must have read. What did you tell this guy?
Right.
You told this guy this never happened before at DIA? So I get an email. And in the middle of the email is, because of the unusual nature of your request, the Defense Intelligence Agency will have to conduct interdepartment meetings and cross-reference investigations with other agencies in an effort to satisfy your request. Now you're going to start having about this. But this is all fake. The alien program is fake. Why are you telling me you might have to have interdepartment meetings about a coded document that's supposed to be fake? Like you said, if there's nothing to it, why are you sending back this FOIA that says, we're going to have to start talking to other people in the Pentagon and whatnot? I just thought that was extremely bizarre.
So what?
It's scary.
What ended up? Did it go anywhere? Or they just
For the second time, my emails disappear. My wife's like, you're doing 3 things. My wife, nicest, coolest wife on the planet, very non-hyperbolic, not, nervous. Or she's like, that's it. This is crazy. You're going to the police department. You're going to file a report. You better file one with the FBI so you have this recorded. And you and Matt, my lawyer, are going to send emails to all these crazy agencies. You're done. My wife's like, I'm not saying stop investigating, but your FOIA requests, my wife's like, you're done. So my lawyer and myself crafted an email to the NSA, the DOD, who I was told was investigating me, or I was on a special watch list, which I've been told is completely constitutionally illegal. The DOD, the NSA, the DIA, and the Department of Navy. I sent emails that, my name is Jon Stewart. Here's my boom. I'm done. I'm not investigating. I will no longer FOIA anything. And to the NSA, who I believe, and I will tell you this, entrap my phone, I am dropping my appeals to the NSA of their electronic encouragement on my phone, because I got an email from somebody that said, we believe that your phone has had a counterintelligence spyware bug placed on it called Stingray Centipede. They have to get a court order from a judge to put this on your phone, but it's not for you doing something illegal. 99% of the time, it's a counterintelligence operation to see what you know, who is telling you what you know. But to think that that might be real, and somebody went to a judge in my I mean, my wife was officially like freaking freaked out. But once I sent all those emails and said I'm done, suddenly my iPhone kept working. And I want to just tell your viewers, because you deserve this from me and your listeners and viewers, I went to Apple Corporation because I have an iPhone. They did a forensic audit of my phone while I watched them go into my phone. It looked like something from the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie. And the director of that department, the forensic audit department, told the young lady that was helping me, her name was Arsh, and I have the case number. I heard him tell him, we have no idea who could have taken his emails, why they disappeared. Off of 4 platforms on my iPhone, AOL, Gmail, my dad's AOL, and iCloud were all gone. Not just AOL. And we are sorry we can't help him. And the fact of his blurry text, my text screen with my wife went blurry, where I could only see the bottom text of hers. We have never seen a text message screen go blurry since we've been conducting forensic audits. Tell Mr. Stewart we're sorry. He was telling her, Mr. Stewart, this is okay. Did you hear that? We are so sorry. We don't know why. I go to a computer guy in Chicago. I call him my Russian hacker, and I'll finish here about the incursion in my life. He said, buddy, there's only 2 G's that could have taken those emails off your iPhone. I said, 2 G's? He's like, God and the government. And he goes, God's probably not interested in what's on your iPhone. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, count on it. And the fact that I've got a guy telling me what the program was called, the counterintelligence program. I've got Apple telling me, I don't, we can't help you. We don't know how this happened. The weirdness of the FOIAs. Rick Doty being told, oh, this guy sent up trip flares. Why? I'm a retired used automobile dealer, bust out pro wrestler, failed politician who's investigating a alleged hoaxed alien video. Why would that person send off all of these trip flares, so to speak, all of this consternation, getting court orders on my phone? Why? You can't tell me my emails disappeared because of, the Holy Spirit. I'm sorry. You can't tell me the weirdness at the DIA. Why? I thought the video was a hoax. I thought all the information about the video was a hoax. Why is this happening? Again, I'm still telling people, I don't know if this film is real, but no one, your viewers, no one can explain why that happened to me if it was fake.
So at what point, so basically you're hitting a brick wall. And you've investigated all these people, and people are either ghosting you, or it's not going anywhere, or you're having things removed. They're not providing you information.
Right.
But then we suddenly have these Navy pilots that come out.
Right.
Is that about what the time? I mean, did you basically thrown in the towel, and then suddenly you read a newspaper article, or you're watching the TV and they say, hey, guess what? We got these Navy pilots that are saying that they had TikTok UFOs.
Yeah, well, that was in 2017, but you're hitting the chord. All of a sudden, and by the way, I flew to Washington, D.C. during all this and handed my investigation with photos.
What year is this?
2022. Right? Yeah.
Okay, well.
So couple of months after I'm in Washington, D.C., going to congressional offices, handing over this investigation pack, code names, project facilities, dates, the photos of the alien, who the doctor was on the alien's right, our left. I mean, just hyperbolic stuff. All of a sudden, David Grush, the Air Force colonel, comes forward to Congress to say, we have craft in custody, non-human craft, and we called biologics because he was too afraid to say alien beings. We had craft in custody and biological beings in custody, completely backing up what I was saying, not about the film, but that there, like Doty said, there is this program south of Area 51 for the retention, the interrogation, and the reverse examination of biologics and metal and craft. And
is that where he was saying it was also?
No, he would only say that, and it's called a SCIF, a secured
right. He didn't want that. Those things where he's like, "I'll tell you that,"
right,
but not on the camera.
So I went to the New York Times and said, I've got it all. I've got the names, dates. David Grush. They don't want to touch it. It's still too scary, too hyperbolic, too weird, too bizarre. I go to sell this to Hollywood to get more money to get it to investigate it. I had nowhere to go. Hollywood's like, I'll never forget this. Top network officials are going to my agent and a producer that was helping me. Wait a minute. He says the film is real? He thinks he has proof it's real? No.
Okay.
Too weird, too bizarre. I find it funny. One executive said, we want to have our people stay on the channel and watch and get that market share. We don't want to scare the crap out of them, so they run down in the basement and hide for 3 years. Remember that statement.
Okay.
This is too bizarre. And he's got proof. He thinks that this alien film is real. 3 network executives said, pass. So the producer's like, if I can do anything to help you, I will, but we're just,
Dead in the water.
Dead in the water. And remember, I was out to find who Victor was. 30 years looking for this Victor, 27 years actually. And somebody emails me, and by the way, during all this, a college kid figured out the code name of a facility in Bermuda in the 50s and early 60s that housed live extraterrestrials. Is a whole nother story. And really interesting things were happening. Somebody emails me and says, hey, Victor's darkened face on the documentary in 97. Somebody highlighted it, lightened it. It's on Reddit. I'm like, oh my God. I go to Reddit and I see Victor. He looks like the Southern wrestler from the 80s, Arn Anderson. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but I'm like, what? Oh my God. I've got a picture. Now I have a sudden moment of brilliance. Why don't I go to the director of the 2 Victor documentaries, the one in 97 and the one where he came back? Maybe he'll tell me who Victor's name is. This is great. I can end this. Because if Victor, they told me, Matt, everyone in Hollywood, everyone in the government, find Victor. If you find he's an actor with central casting, it's a hoax.
Right.
If you find this guy has any tentacles with the government, oh shit. Now we got a whole other investigation. Very, very poignant. So I got the picture. Now I go to the director. He's like, I'm not going to tell you this for free. I don't blame him. I sign a contract with him and pay him. And I'm admitting that. I paid him. Give me the first name. And he says, he told me his name was Stanton, but to never call him Stan. Now, I want to tickle your street smarts. What does that basically tell you? What his name was? Stan. Yeah, don't call me by my real name. So I'm thinking Stanton. Folks, for 9 months, I researched the obituaries because Victor said he was dying in '08. I can't find anything. But I've got Stan and this bearded guy that looks like the pro wrestler. So I got a name and I got a face. So I contact Chris Todd. He claims, and rightly so, he solved OJ, John Benet Ramsey, Natalie Wood. Whether or not he completed that, this guy is a bulldog. I mean, he's just a great investigator. His investigation techniques are awesome. I mean, he's Jon Stewart. What I did, knocking on doors, stalking people, taking them out for coffee, or they tell me what you know. I said, Chris, what would you do if you were me? And he's like, that's interesting. He came back in '08, goading, that's my term, challenging people to prove it's a hoax. He's mad at ufologists for saying it's real, prima facie. He's like, don't tell me it's real when you've never investigated that. Would a hoaxer do that? And so Chris Todd is like, I don't think this is a hoax. You would not challenge people to bust you, to find out your bio. And Chris said, and he's always, we know he was paid for both times. Chris said, this guy's about money and ego, hubris. He wanted to come out. He wants people to find him. He goes, I don't think this guy's dead. I think this guy is still out there, maybe on a fringe UFO group, a fringe scientific group. I think this guy is still out there somewhere hiding in public. Oh boy. If a prophetic word has never been said to me in 5 years, it's 3 a.m. I've got YouTube on autoplay. And one thing I would like to say, please don't cut this out. If it wasn't for the internet, Now, there's been people on the internet that have been horribly cruel to me, but if it wasn't for the majority of kind people, other investigators on the internet, I would not be sitting here today telling you I found Victor and I think I've proven what this whole thing is all about, because they have been so helpful to me. And that includes the creation of the internet and things like YouTube, which helped me tremendously, looking at all these UFO docs. 3 a.m, I've got YouTube on autoplay. I just happened to wake up out of a deep sleep, and this crazy, bizarre, old documentary is on, Cosmic Conspiracy from like 1983.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above, that's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
And I look up, and a guy has got his back opening a motel room door to let in 2 ufologists, Bill Moore and Stanton Friedman, to interview them for the documentary. They're showing this. He closes the motel door. This is like a movie. He turns around. There is Victor, the beard, the 3-piece suit, the glasses, the hair that dips down on his forehead. If Colby will show the picture. And I'm like, holy shit, I found Victor. I'm waking up my wife. I don't know the name of him. So I fast forward to the credits. Victor, I will tell you, and your viewers, after 27 years, Victor is a former disgraced Air Force cadet, a self-taught scientist, a former informant with the FBI. He was an expert in propulsion, and he claims Dr. Edward Teller got him down to this facility. Victor is the old ufologist. His name is Stan Dale, and he's not an actor. He's not a Hollywood guy. You know, scientist, former FBI informant, old-time ufologist, and I contacted him, and he's like,
was he absolutely shocked that you tracked him down?
It was a great story. I tell people this was like I felt like Clarice Starling in Silence of the Lambs, walking down the hall to encounter Hannibal Lecter. So I call. He answers the phone. Hello, Jon Stewart. And I'm like, how did you know it was me? He's like, well, it's called caller ID. And he starts laughing. Very congenial. I said, Mr. Dale, I found you. He's like, found what? I'm like, sir, I know you're Victor. Who? I'm like, Mr. Dale, can we dispense the bullshit? I know you're Victor. And for 10 minutes, I am like the interrogator in a police room going, in the '08 documentary, he talks about the sun bathing the earth with solar radiation to cause an extinction level event. That's on his website. The End of the World, Eschatology Caused by Solar Flares. Other articles about solar flares, the end of the world. He talks about the Hopi prophecy in the Mayan calendar. That's on his website. He says in a bio that Dr. Teller, he was friends with Dr. Teller. That's how he got him down to S4. The same thing with the same story as Bob Lazar. He was in propulsion. He knew Bill Moore, who was fluent in French, was a crony of his, and he spoke French in the '08 documentary. Victor did. Kind of, I think, like a homage. I don't think that's crazy. The biggest thing is a guy named Phil Klass. He had a UFO skeptic newsletter back in the 90s. Now, going through your mind, all these old 80s and 90s websites and newsletters. And I was told that Phil Klass had Victor's bio on his Skeptics website and newsletter. Not his name, just his bio. And I always said to myself, which was great intelligence that someone gave me, I said, how would he know Victor's bio if he didn't know who Victor is? How can I put Victor and Phil Klass together? How can I ever, Phil Klass is dead. How can I ever find a connection? In Cosmic Conspiracy, who is Stan Deyo interviewing? Phil Klass, as a skeptic for the documentary. So that's how this guy knew Victor and knew that Victor released the film, or helped release the film. And he's a hostile witness now. But God damn it, Matthew, 27 years. It's like finding your long-lost father that you never knew. I found my guy. I bagged him, and he's not an actor. And everybody with this production, from Rocket Pictures, who put out the 2 documentaries, have all said, I am telling you, John, we didn't make that 3-minute film. Matthew, I'm not regressing. I'm just saying, I contacted people who did the gaffing, the sound on the documentary, the first one. They all don't really talk to each other, and they all said the same thing. Jeff Broadstreet, the director, called us in the office and said, you got to look at this. Put in the VHS tape and rolled that 3-minute film. They all said, Rocket Pictures did not make this film. So either Stan Deyo made it or the government made it and Stan Deyo brought it out. But I had a guy from National Geographic who they hired, his name was Bill Mums. He said, I can't tell you it's real or not. It does not have creases under the armpits like every foam animatronic doll that's been made. And another thing is, this was definitely 1,000% filmed on 16 millimeter. I said, Bill, why is that unusual? He said, well, really, the only people that filmed on 16 millimeter in the early 90s till now are, maybe some motion picture if they want to have old time film, but the government still used it until the early 90s. Oh, they use 16 millimeter. And he said this, if you are on a short budget, remember I talked about money, the lack of money. If you were on a shoestring budget, why would you shoot this on 16 millimeter and then put this on VHS tape to hand the VHS tape, and then send your dupe, Victor, to other networks to sell the tape before he comes to you? It just sounds too circuitous, and too much. And even Bill Mums, a special effects expert, said they would have just filmed this on VHS tape and put it out. They would have never went through the steps of 16 millimeter to VHS. And Victor said he was the one that did that. We do know that.
So he admits. So Stan admits.
No, Victor admits to doing that. Stan admits to nothing, even though
you're saying, I know this is you. Right. I can prove this. I can prove this.
Right. And to tell your viewers, he looked at the picture, the lightened picture, and a picture of himself in '85. He said, "quote By golly, it's my doppelganger. Even the hairline." Quote, even the hairline is mine. I said, Stan, Mr. Deyo, I called him, you even fold your hands at the wrist like Victor did. I've seen that in 2 of your documentaries. He's like, well, yes, I do that. And I said, and you sigh a lot. You, in your documentaries, I've seen it, you sign in other documentaries. I said, Dr. Teller, he got Bob Lazar in S4. He's saying he got you in S4. You're telling me that a Stan into this, telling everybody the sun is going to destroy the earth was at S4. You said you were at S4, but it's not you in the film? Come on. And he's like, I just can't admit it's me. So what am I going to do? Beat him over the head with a hose? Right. I'm going to eventually go to his house and try and film him, even to get his testimony of denying that it is him. But for now, I mean, we've had police officers, producers, investigators, all the photo match, which I'll give Kobe. It's shocking. It's a 1,000% match, and all of the other things about Phil Klass, the website with the solar flares and the end of the world and eschatology. It's Victor. Victor is Stan Deyo, and 27 years later, I found him, and I ask you and your viewers, he's not an actor. So now what? Now what do you tell me? I don't know.
So he's still around?
Still alive.
How old is he?
80 years old.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, this is
he still he's still go into the
still
alien
operating
thing?
his website.
Okay.
Matt, I'm looking in your eyes. Please illuminate me. Am I nuts? 95% of the people involved that I interviewed that said they were part of this are in their 70s, their early 80s. I mean, come on. Is this what senior citizens do? Hoax a used car dealer from Chicago? I mean, come on. And I contacted everybody, nope, other than the chairman, I call him, who contacted me. I went out and sought everyone else. Is it really conceivable to think that a retired government employee is walking around with a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 video hoax, making $25,000 maybe at the most for his appearance for it, which means it wouldn't cover the cost of hoaxing that video? Does that really make any sense? Or is maybe the real answer, Occam's razor, that this did slip away from a government facility. They waited 5 years. They showed it to the world. They knew the government would never prosecute them because there was a little cabal that did this. Then the government would never prosecute them because of discovery. You're going to prosecute us about an alien interview film? Oh, great. I can't wait till the world hears this one, like the OJ trial, and sees it on TV. It's the most logical explanation at this point. I decided to make the documentary because I can't find anybody to tell me that it's a hoax. Even FX people say, oh, it looks fake. It's good, but I could do better. Well, do it. They don't. Why is it a fake? If you're telling me this is a fake Toyota car, you and I could say in a minute why it's a real Toyota or a fake one. Tell me exactly why it's fake, the alien. Is there a piece of mechanical part that you see protruding from the skin that is conclusively a fake? Is there something that they can't point to anything? It's all conjecture and hearsay, and I think so. I can't go on that. I'm an investigator. I find it interesting. And then you find a couple of special effects people who take you to the side, literally and metaphorically, to say, one guy told me, we can't fake emotion. The ending of that film of that being was exasperated. That being was emotion. I saw sorrow and I felt deep in its eyes. Another special effects person said that you couldn't fake those eyes. They're just, and he went through a whole specific list of how hard it is with glass, if you were going to use glass or marble on those eyes, of the reflection. And a special effects person goes through a whole dissertation of why most likely those eyes are something biological. Again, so I have not one person in Hollywood, the government, in the UFO world that has said, here it is. This is the conclusive reason why this is fake. And that's why I went forward and made the documentary, because I was out of answers.
What did you think when you heard about the Navy pilots coming? And how did that, but I don't really know that much about it.
Yeah.
I did watch some bits and pieces of it. How did that, do you know how that came about?
Yeah, there was a gentleman, a former defense secretary, deputy named Chris Mellon, and Robert Bigelow, the billionaire from Las Vegas, that wanted disclosure, and
I love the Bigelow story.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
and they wanted disclosure, and they went to the Pentagon and said, do we have anything that we can release? This is like kind of their inner monologue. Folks, this is this is just me hearing this story. And they found a clip that was fuzzy and blurry and obscure enough to not say, this is definitely a UFO or an alien. We don't know what this is. They did a legal maneuver with DOPSR, the organization, the agency that okays releases of classified or non-classified material by military people. If they want to write a book, a screenplay, go to the media. And they got this, they did a maneuver. Well, they got the Tic Tac video declassified. Now, I call bullshit, because you're not walking out with anything classified of the Pentagon. And anything non-human intelligence related is classified as majestic eyes only. Majestic, take this to the bank. Majestic eyes only. That is the top designation, higher secrecy than the Atomic Manhattan Program of the atomic bomb. So they did a maneuver, but they did a maneuver because it wasn't as classified as people think it was. It was so obscure. NASA says it was only going 40 miles an hour. Do you know this? So just bear that in mind. I'm not I'm not poo-pooing the story. I'm just saying. So they got this film out. They found Lou Elizondo that was doing a kind of like a side project with Arrow and A-Tip, and it's real sketchy if he was the director or wasn't. I'm not getting into it. But they got Lou to release this to two reporters that I spoke to about the alien interview, Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keane. And they got New York Times to release this Tic Tac video. What it is, we still don't know. Is it a drone of some sort? Is it just a Chinese drone or something? NASA did the trigonometry. It was 10,000 to 13,000 feet in the air, going 40 miles an hour. So, but what did it do? It opened the door for somebody like the New York Times to start saying aliens in using the vernacular UFO, where news outlets can talk about Jon Stewart, is investigating an extraterrestrial program with the government, and before they run the segment on me, they don't play the X-Files music and have a green alien. It's given gravitas now, and that's what I so appreciative of those, a favor of one of the fighter pilots going to Congress, and of course I think it's the bombshell. David Grush was a counterintelligence agent for the Air Force, a colonel. And he decided to come forward to say, we have recovered crash, and with those crash pilots or biologics. It's the game changing. All we need now is a 4K resolution of a craft coming down and beams coming out. It doesn't look CGI. And then we have catastrophic disclosure, and then the conversation gets blown wide open. But the problem is that the government has given most of this to subcontractors. You can't FOIA them. That was a very smart maneuver that the United States government, the Pentagon, did. I've got the cookie jar. I'm going to give it to somebody that you can't use legal maneuvering to get the cookie jar back. And
those are companies like what?
Lockheed, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman.
They have their own. They have their own teams.
Yes.
That when they find out there's a crash site or there's
right, they try and
landing,
recover them.
They go out, they
correct.
check it all out, they get the information, they keep the information, they do.
I've talked about that in my Lockheed firefight story. Yeah, it's an amazing, it's explosive story if true. And the biggest thing, Matthew, with disclosure is something that South Africa did during apartheid and Nelson Mandela took back over. You're going to have a dispensation board. You're going to have to exonerate all these colonels, majors, generals, CEOs of these corporations for the illegal money that they may have proffered and spent, the possible murders over the past 70 years. I hate talking about that because I hate to think that my government has murdered American citizens to keep this phenomenon secret, but they have, I think. We are just going to have to exonerate everyone in some sort of a mass committee hearing, exoneration panel to move forward to let CEOs say, yeah, we had non-human intelligence craft and so on and so forth, and for the government and generals to keep their pensions, to keep them out of jail. This is what's going to happen, as uncomfortable as that is for the American people, as angry as it makes UFO people in the UFO community. We're going to have to relieve and have dispensation for all crimes for this phenomenon.
There's absolutely no incentive for them to come forward.
That's
and
correct,
speak.
sir.
If I'm going to, then what? You take away my pension and I die a pauper because
that's right.
Because I was following orders.
Right. I'm not going to have a major in the Army retired, at the Virginia Country Club golfing, making $120,000 a year pension. He's got a $400,000 a year consulting job with one of these subcontractors. He's going to risk that to come forward to help Jon Stewart's to prove my story is correct and go to jail. Please.
So what?
Please.
So the Navy pilots came out and they did a whole press conference.
Yeah.
Then they went in front of Congress. They were questioned. And what was the most recent one that came out?
Well, the most recent one was the UFO, the Arrow or the UAP hearing, which was a couple of about 10 days ago. But it's the same. It's a big nothing burger.
Yeah.
It's all stories. Nobody's got anything because, like Lou Elizondo, he can't show you anything. He's got an NDA, security agreement with the government. This is Matthew. I'm looking you in the eye. This is why my investigation is so crucial, because I am not bound by any security agreements, and government officials have helped my investigation. I am a guy that can show video, show photos, tell you names, allegedly, project names, project coding, dates without any reprisal from the government, because I am not under any NDA. Don't people understand? This is how the process is working for people in the military that want disclosure. You find a Jon Stewart and you help him out, you assist him, and let him leak this to the public. That's why this investigation is so important, because we have the names, dates, and photos. Whether you believe it or not, if 1% of it is true, 1% of it is true, then what does that tell you? That there's something that
you're going to go start your car one day.
Well, I don't know about that, because I don't thumb my nose at the government, and I'm very respectful of the government. And I've always said,
I don't think that matters. I think if they
it's already out. I mean,
if they decide it's a no-go on this coming out, then
yeah. Well, look, I'm not backpedaling, but I've ended all my FOIAs and appeals with all of the intelligence communities. I've went on ad nauseum that I think these are heroes. These men and women didn't decide to do this when they were in 7th grade, that they were given this information and they had to deal with it as best they could. I understand the secrecy because of the challenge of the Cold War and China and all the other state actors that could threaten our country, but it's time now. Let me help you come out of the closet with this phenomenon. The American people won't understand.
Yeah, but let's assume that those people aren't going to come out.
Okay.
And the government and you, what would, if you were in charge of a government body that was in charge of investigating things, and they knew the truth, and there was a lot more and more pressure on them, what would you do if you to come out and say, would you just have a big press conference? I mean, imagine the things that they have to admit to now. And I guess obviously they don't have to admit to everything.
It's horrible. You're right. You nailed it on the head.
Captured these things.
We killed good scientists to keep this cover up. We did this. Possibly the drug trade was involved in getting us money there are people out there that think we spent $3 trillion in 70 years on this. $3 trillion that could have went for after school programs, daycare centers, bridges, roads. We could have had a utopia here in this country. So, it's going to be a very difficult conversation. If I was running this program, I would leak something disastrous, like a 4K of a craft coming down, beans coming out. We don't know how this leaked. Okay, we're gonna have this. If you're, I don't want to give any examples, but if you've done something dastardly, sometimes the best thing is rip that Band-Aid off, have an excuse to come forward, and do a mea culpa. It's the only way. Because I don't think the Congress is going to have enough spine to demand to push the Pentagon to release this. So it's got to be even like I have very big hope for President Trump that he will take the helm on this and have some kind of dispensation program. I've already sent signals through an intermediary to his the transition group that I would like to be on that panel. I would like to be on some sort of committee to be a liaison between government and the public as far as this information. And I would leak some catastrophic UFO.
You don't even have to tell them everything.
You don't.
You don't have to go in and say, listen, this happened and this scientist was going to do this one time, and guess what? Boom.
That's it.
We faked his death.
That's right.
Or we blew up a car.
That's right.
You don't have to say any of that.
No.
You could just come in and say, look, we can't tell you everything, but we can show you this.
That's right.
We'll talk about this. Well, what happened with the aliens? Well, we can't tell you what happened with the aliens. But we can tell you that there were 3 aliens here. There was a crash site here. We can tell you this. Like, some stuff's going to remain classified, but at least come clean and say, we do know that these beings are currently in the ocean. We do know that these beings come from here. We believe that. We have had many, many exchanges with them. We have an agreement with them.
Right.
You know, if you could have that and say, and that's all we're going to tell you, and don't go looking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're deep underneath the, you know, whatever, and don't go looking. Like it's a problem.
And we proffered their technology for the better of America, for the better of the world.
Yeah, we've got some stealth stuff. We have an agreement.
Stealth, Kevlar, fiber optics, the micro transistor, you know, maybe some health, biomedical advancements. You know, this has benefited the world to some degree. And yeah, we can't tell you everything because of security, and I agree with that. But yes, there is other life. You know, kind of like pass it off as like going to Yellowstone and seeing grizzlies in the woods. You know, those are dangerous and could kill you, but we're not gonna, you know, kill them all. And, you know, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think it's that insurmountable of a challenge that the government can't face. Well, and most Americans are worried about Wheel of Fortune and the Real Housewives of New Jersey. So, you know, and the NFL, we don't really give a shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
We
I
really
think
don't.
Probably part of it too. The way to do it is to leak a little bit, let it come out, wait 10 years, leak a little bit.
Haven't they been
wait.
doing that?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
And then
Okay.
So you acclimate people to an environment where we're sharing this planet with aliens.
And you show them you desensitize them in movies and cartoons and
then eventually
comic books.
Yeah.
You know.
One day they say, hey, by the way,
that's it.
No subs in this area.
You nailed it right on.
Right.
No
nuclear testing in this in these areas.
That's right.
It. Yeah. You can go on a cruise ship. You can do this. You can do that. But don't send any. What was that sub that went down to the Titanic?
What was it called?
The little baby sub. No baby subs are going down in these areas. That's a bad idea.
Right.
Or you guys fall into the monkey cage.
Correct.
And they get to play with you. Right.
Correct.
So at the end of the movie, The Abyss, you find out that there's an abyss. There's a deep area in the ocean where there is actually, you don't really know what's happening during the movie.
You see him make contact with that.
Till the very end of the movie, you realize, oh my God, these are aliens.
Right.
Like that's what's happening. That's what we've come. That's what is in the abyss is aliens, and that's why all these things are happening because these are aliens. That you don't really realize that till the very end. Super interesting concept, but very much. But you know, same thing. Maybe is that a script that the government said, go ahead and make that movie.
I think so. Yes.
We're just going to start. We're just going to start sprinkling what's going on here. Let people in on, see how they react.
They say Steven Spielberg created Close Encounters because of what he was told and
like
what he knew.
When you were growing up and I was growing up, we were roughly the same age, right?
Yeah, right.
How old are you again?
57.
Yeah, we're about the same age.
Yeah.
So you and I were growing up. If somebody talked about believing in aliens, then they're mocked and ridiculed.
Right.
But now, you know, one of the guys that had to me huge credibility is, you know, when Congress is having hearings and the pilots come out and they're talking about this, and these are professional pilots who have nothing but I mean they have credibility, but they've got nothing. They have everything to lose by coming out.
Really?
You only look foolish by coming out.
That's
Luckily, how different would it have been if they had said, do you have footage? And they said, no, we don't have footage. You look like a crackpot. But because you have this footage, which is still grainy and whatever, that changed everything because there was no way for the government to spin that. It's like this, I can only get this footage. It's absolutely. So there's no backpedaling for them. The fact that the government, well, and then of course, then it across, and they do this in Close Encounters, where the pilots say, we just saw something. And they're like, do you want to report it?
Right.
And they're
the
like,
opening scene with the air traffic control.
yeah, the air traffic control, they're just talking.
Right.
These guys are just talking. Like, they don't really show what happens. And they're like, and so the other air traffic controllers are gathering around them. And they're like, would you like to make a report? And they're like, well, you know, I don't really know what I saw. And they're like, would you like to make a report on a UFO? And they're like,
ruin your career.
Right. And they're like, that's a negative. No. And then like, AGG-52, which is like the other plane that had the two planes had seen the same thing.
Right.
And they're like, "Would you like?" No, I'm good. I don't know what it was. I'm not interested. Now, when they were talking, they knew what it was.
Right.
But then, let's make this official. Let's write it down. Let's say, no, I don't. You can hear it in their voice. What am I gonna do? You're a fucking crackpot. I'm gonna let you fly fucking planes with 300
right.
souls on board.
Right.
I'm gonna let you and you think you're seeing UFOs?
Can you imagine us in the hiring department in United? We flip his thing and he's got an FAA report that he saw unidentified
Oh, it's done.
green object. We're like, done.
Can't
Next.
hire him.
Yep.
He's done.
Done.
And that's what it would have been. And so
Totally.
now you're like, these are Navy pilots who
Huge.
come out years. It's not like this just happened. This is 10 years earlier, whenever they have it. So this is what we have on tape.
Yeah.
How many of those pilots that are out there chose to say nothing, couldn't get a copy of the tape,
Right.
Who knows what it is? There was no tape. There was nothing. It was just a bunch of guys. And I've heard these reports too, where they've been the guy on a patrolman or something on a boat in the middle of the ocean,
Right.
who have saw something. There's no video. They saw something. They don't report that stuff.
Right, right.
Why would I report that?
Right.
Like I look foolish to go in and say, I'm telling you, I just saw this. Okay.
Right.
Even if the captains, which probably do believe it, are like, they're probably like, no, bro, you don't want to.
Yeah, because there's no gain to it, right?
You don't want to put that down.
What's the gain of it?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. The government has made it pretty, and this is what's funny too, is like, I love the George Carlin discussion on conspiracies, like where he says you do not have to have a consensus of basically you don't have to get together and meet and decide on
right.
on a conspiracy.
Right.
If everybody has the same, if all parties have the same
Right.
goal in line,
Right.
we all want this for society. So you never know what government, all these people in the government have been led to believe this is something that we're putting the kibosh on.
That's
so
right.
the captain of a naval vessel doesn't have to have ever had a discussion. He knows better. Those pilots already know better. Why? Because I know a guy named Tommy who one time reported this, and within 2 weeks he lost his job, and now he's doing crop dusting, and he's a drunk, and his wife left him.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's insisting that he saw an alien. And hey, good for Tommy for standing up, and you're a good guy, Tommy, but I'm not going to do that because I got 2 kids. I know better. I'm a pilot for Delta. I'm making $200,000 a year, and my kids are in private school, and I can't be coming on here saying I just saw 2 UFOs.
True.
Let somebody else be the crackpot that everybody mocks. And that's all true. That's all true up until those pilots came, because I was one of those guys who'd be like, "Come on, bro." And I'll be honest with you, this is still the truth to this day. This is the main problem with the alien thing. Is why Earth? Why would you come here? Why are you interested in us? For one thing, and there are very, very easy things that answer all my questions. Very easy answers. So for one thing, right now, you cannot travel faster than the speed of light. So they're not coming from other galaxies. And the ways around that is to say, okay, well, what if they've learned to use wormholes or whatever
bend time
or whatever, things that we think are just are impossible to do. Well, we don't have their knowledge, their science. So let's say they could do that. Okay, then maybe you want to come to Earth. Why do you want to come to Earth? And you go, okay, well, because it's a planet that's ready to be colonized. But they're not taking it over. If you were that far advanced, you would just go into orbit, you'd sprinkle some pixie dust, and in 24 hours, all life on Earth would be dead, and the dust that you settled would be innate, and you'd come down and you'd just occupy the planet. It'd be that simple. Because that's how simple it is. It almost is for us right now. We could take a biological weapon and fly planes over Baghdad,
wipe out the world,
and wipe out that entire thing just by doing that. We don't do it But that's how easy it is. If that's easy for us, what is it for a planet that's 1,000 years ahead of us? They destroy us. The other thing is, oh, okay, well, they want us for our water. Water's abundant everywhere in the universe, everywhere. Oh, they want our planet. They could probably terraform any planet they want. What
about the gold and the minerals?
Yeah, gold and minerals are everywhere. It's everywhere. Listen, if you go to the asteroid belt, any one of thousands, hundreds of thousands of asteroids have more
precious
metals than currently exist on the planet. Any one of them.
Yeah.
So that's out. What? Power? They've beaten power. If you're traveling across the universe, you've beaten the problem of power.
What about the zoo analogy?
That's really right. If that's the case,
That's what I think.
but if that's the case, then how are we getting a hold of them? You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying every once in a while somebody in the zoo doesn't fall in the lion's den or fall into the monkey cage,
True.
right? The monkeys are walking around with a little 3-year-old baby. I'm not saying that's not possible, but that's really what the scenario is.
Right. I think that's what it is, but
And then every once in a while, you think, okay, well, then how do we get a hold of it in general? How do they crash? How do they, I get, like, in some ways it's like, okay, you traveled hundreds of millions of light years across the universe. You came here and your ship malfunctioned. There's an accident. You fell in the monkey cage. The gorillas got a hold of you, and now they're doing experiments on you. You'd have to take into consideration that we have no interaction with them. I guess that's possible. And they have no way to track their own people. That seems unlikely. But I think recently I had heard, and there are little bits and pieces of this, kind of like the movie The Abyss, which Colby's never seen. A good movie, interesting movie. I don't know about good.
Colby, we have to have a slumber party or something
Yeah,
and put some good movies in here.
And you would think that he'd hear these things and he'd go home and tell his wife, "Hey, listen, we got to go check this movie out." He doesn't care.
Millennials.
He's like, yeah. So, but I do like this. This concept, which is the ocean. First of all, 3/5 of the planet are covered by ocean.
Correct.
There's a lot more there than a lot more surface area in the ocean than there is above ocean.
And we know more about the moon than the ocean floor.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's totally unexplored and difficult for us to explore. The other interesting thing to me is that one of the problems with terraforming for us is gravity, right? And finding these, because let's say Mars. Well, Mars has a lot less gravity, right? So that's going to be a problem for us. And the other thing is, now we found tons of these exoplanets, right? There's thousands. Yes. They found thousands now.
What do they call them? The Goldilocks planet?
Yeah, you're looking for the Goldilocks zone for us. But that's assuming that these aliens are interested in our planet for the surface. But really, and this is a concept, for example, if you watch YouTube, I've watched videos on multiple different types of planets, right? There are some planets that are basically water worlds. They're made up of almost of all water. And and sometimes the gravity is so strong on them, water can be condensed so hard, it's almost like a solid. Now, it'd kill us, it'd crush us. But let's say these beings are from a planet where they developed underwater. So why wouldn't you come here? The gravity for them may be perfect. There is a portion of it that's covered by water. We can live there. And you know what? These little things that are up there, like, they're not bothering us.
Right.
Yeah, we see them up here, but we can remain fairly undetected. And like you said, they have to put them in maybe different types of chambers, because of course, if they're developing on other planets, then they're going to develop in different ways.
Right.
And they're not going to be able to come here and just walk out. For instance, the gravity may kill them alone. They either explode or they get crushed. They can't breathe the air.
Right.
They can't. There's all kinds of reasons that maybe going under the ocean, which is kind of like the new thing that's come out in Congress, is like,
Correct.
Hey, these things are, and also ties in really well with the Navy pilots that saw these little TikToks going everywhere and disappearing.
And then in the water.
They're going in the water.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, they're traveling through water like it's nothing.
So you're saying that because we don't see them on the surface mining gold,
Right.
but that they are in the ocean, that may be their main reason for being here, and that's
Well, I mean, there's
a
lots
really
of,
good theory.
there's lots of interesting things about just civilization, our civilization in part, right? Humans. A lot of people think, oh, we're going to overpopulate the planet. We're not. We're actually slowing down considerably, and in about 20 years from now, 20 to 30 years from now, we'll be decreasing the population.
Yeah, birth rates are not matching, not matching death rates
Right.
in many countries.
We have major problems, and there's some countries right now that are already suffering problems. China, Japan,
Italy.
There's lots of where they're living longer, and that their workforce
Right.
is disappeared.
Right.
The people that should be working and taking care of the elderly
Right.
are no longer there because
Right.
they either there was a period of a depression, or there were wars, and that portion of the population died off and didn't reproduce fast enough because they were in an economic decline. And when you're in an economic decline, you stop having babies. You have babies when things are going good. When there's a depression,
So true.
you stop having kids.
So
Why?
true.
Because I can't feed these
Can't
kids.
feed 'em.
You know, so you have, and that doesn't happen for 2 years. That happens for decades. So now you got 20 years. So you said, okay, well, what if we start having babies again? Great. They're not in the workforce for 25 years. We need people in 2 years. So that's a major problem everywhere. So in the next 20 to 30 years, our population, and this isn't just our country, this is all countries, is decreasing. So here's the thing, is that what if these other planets didn't have war and they beat energy? If we beat the problem of energy and food, and we didn't kill ourselves off in massive swaths every once in a while, the problem would be we're overpopulated.
Sure.
And then Elon Musk doesn't look like his plan to populate other planets doesn't look like, hey, this is something that's kind of cool.
Right.
Suddenly it becomes, this is a 100% necessity, and we have to put all our resources towards it. And
I can't disagree with you.
you see what I'm saying? Like, then you say, okay, this planet can't sustain us. We have to go somewhere else.
Right.
But maybe they don't want to kill off the population. They don't want to sprinkle the pixie dust. And here's a planet. They may be planets everywhere.
Right.
And we're trying not to bother you guys, but every once in a while we land on the planet.
Won't let you blow yourselves up.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you guys, one of them crashes and lands in the
Yeah.
monkey pen, and the gorillas get a hold of them, and
love
they start
it.
experiencing.
Yeah.
That's us. We're
Right.
You know, what do we do if we go in there in droves and grab them? You know, they see us. Like, that's a problem. We're trying to keep this on the lowdown.
Right.
You know. So I mean, I think that's a scenario that kind of makes sense to me. But the big thing is,
It does.
the scenario in general that actually is happening doesn't have to make sense to me at all, because I'm thinking like in a very
Thinking like a human being.
I was gonna say a lineal
And
human
with your
being.
experience.
Exactly. I don't like. You can't expect me to know how a foreign species is thinking.
No.
That's completely insane.
Exactly.
You know, so who knows what they're thinking? It may be the zoo. We're just watching these guys. You know, who knows? You know, maybe those people or maybe they're aliens that they sacrifice every once in a while. They say, yeah, we're gonna have crash land.
That's what
Bob.
Victor says.
Oh, okay, we're just to put somebody in the midst.
A Jesus, what did he call it? Something similar to Jesus, the mythology of Jesus Christ.
Oh, well,
coming down, giving himself to humans, knowing that he's probably going to get, crucified. And
That's what.
so,
Okay, well,
yeah.
tell me that scenario. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, there's I have a philosophy that that because scientifically and what other leakers have said of the documents that they read, that beings have manipulated our DNA over 162 times. So we are their creation. But it says that in the first text of the Sumerians, which was the first people that knew how to write or communicate through writing, called cuneiform. And there's really nothing that goes against that. Most geneticists say that our 2 of our chromosomes are capped, which is not biologically or genetically possible. That has to be done intentionally. And we don't know who's the capper. This is from a geneticist on like Nova, channel 11, PBS. So I think that we have been manipulated and created by them. Maybe just that's the whole point of the universe, to procreate life, an experiment. I give the analogy. I think a lot of extraterrestrial interaction with human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, is like the Amazon in 1850 and all the British explorers. Did some go for military reasons? Yes. Did some go down to the Amazon for resources and business and exploitation of resources? Yes. Did some go down for pure, the excitement and adventure? Absolutely. When all of these people from Britain went down to the Amazon in the 1800s, did some interactions go good? Yes. Did some go bad? Yes. Did some of the British explorers die from natural causes? Yes. Did some natives were killed or died because of the interaction? Yes. It's the same damn thing with aliens. Do some people, perish? Do some people get injured with the interactions, whether it's radiation or other kind of ailments? It's like, I think to the aliens, we're like fish in a stream. And if you look at fish in a stream, you're going to get my 7-year-old nephew down there that's going to throw rocks at the fish. You're going to get the biologist from the Department of Natural Resources that's going to tag them, track them, maybe extract semen or eggs to study in a lab, just like people claim beings are doing. You're going to get the fisherman that wants to catch them and eat them for their family. You're going to get the fisherman that wants to catch them and, photo and release, and there's a plethora of reasons. And I think we've seen that over the past 70 years of people that have claimed to have been abducted of all kinds of that scenario.
Did you see the new Alien movie?
Which one?
The new one. They just released it. It's Romulus.
No, I have not.
Okay. So obviously it's a normal kind of movie.
Right.
It's actually really good. Probably one of the best that's come out since Aliens, the second one.
Right.
So, but it's funny because at some point they discuss the concept of why the corporations or governments, whatever, want to grab hold of this alien.
Okay.
And study it.
Okay.
And so when they get on the ship, they realize they're doing experiments on the aliens, but of course the ship has been damaged and it's sinking into. Something's happening. It's going to crash. Whatever. They have to get.
It's geosynchronous orbit.
It's decaying. Yeah. It's going to crash into. So it's going to do something. Anyway, but what they realize is that they're, and this is on another planet that's being mined.
Okay.
By humans.
Okay.
The problem is, periodically the humans get diseases and it kills off tons of them, or whatever. There's damage or the radiation's a problem. And what they end up explaining why they're studying and they're trying to blend a human and alien DNA. And the reason is because the aliens are so adaptive. They're hoping to blend, to incorporate their adaptedness to space or different environment into human DNA, because humans are not meant to leave this planet.
Right.
And they're like, and yet we are exploring and we're pushing that boundary, and we're colonizing so many planets, but our species is having such an issue with it.
Yeah.
If they could blend in the alien DNA, then guess what? We can drop these guys off on a planet. They will adapt. We don't have to terraform the whole planet.
Sure.
We don't have to figure out how do we create,
interesting.
Whatever the belt is that keeps the radiation at, like
Van Allen radiation.
Yeah, we're okay with the radiation.
Right.
We can drop them off and they can mine the hell out of this whole thing. They'll adapt. They live in the radiation. Doesn't hurt us. But unfortunately, that's not what's happening at the beginning of that movie or in that timeline. So that's another thing.
Well, the Sumerians said the same thing that they thought would happen, that aliens came down, saw a crude version of us, Cro-Magnon maybe, Neanderthal maybe,
Sprinkle
and
some
said,
pixie dust.
We have to make them a little bit more intelligent, but not too smart to rebel against us, but strong enough to mine the gold that we need. And this is said in the first writing of any civilization. So
what is
very similar to what you're saying.
Tom, oh gosh, no, not Tom. Oh shoot, what is he? Saturday Night Fever. Come on.
John Travolta?
John Travolta did a movie. What was it? The movie where there were these huge aliens came down and they were using the humans to mine gold. You never saw that? Oh
Earth?
my gosh!
Is it called Earth?
I know two movies I'll be watching on the plane home.
Earth?
Is it called Battleship?
Oh,
Earth?
Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth. You never saw
No.
it? Oh, they play giants and they've got the
Oh,
humans.
I gotta get that.
It's
I gotta
great.
watch that.
It's great. It was one
Aliens,
of,
Romulus, Battlefield Earth.
it was one of what's his name? The guy that started Scientology. L. Ron
Hubbard.
It was one of L. Ron Hubbard's books that he wrote, and John Travolta turned it into a movie.
Wow.
It was
Awesome.
It was a B-ish movie, but it wasn't bad.
Right.
It wasn't bad
Right.
for what it was.
You know, Matthew. I think it's kind of interesting that you can't dance around. Not you, us, the world. You know, ask a scientist, ask an astrophysicist. If you had to build an organism, a biological organism for space travel, they basically would tell you, you know, those aliens that's kind of, you would want long fingers with the suction cups on the end for reaching onto a panel when you're in the spaceship. You wouldn't want any reproductive organs. You do it all in vitro or test tube wise to eliminate all of the problems of normal gestation of 9 months and copulation and all the problems that coitus has caused in the world.
Right.
Men and women having sex, and I mean, come on, let's face it. It's
Get rid of that.
Right.
Get rid of that issue.
You
Yeah.
take away emotion from human beings. You'd give them a beehive mentality of work, focus on mission. You'd basically would create something that looks like that is coming to our planet. If you wanted to do a spacefaring entity whose planet is evolved enough where it's not going to de-evolve and destroy itself. You take away personality. You take away. You'd have a theocracy, a one rule religion. You'd have no, nothing, no romance and things to do with human sexuality. And it's just funny that scientists who have to hypothesize what the perfect being would be and to live in a world that would not destroy itself is what we hear and have learned about these beings, allegedly. And number two, I find on the same track, you can't explain to me our obsession with gold over the past 10,000 years on this planet. You just can't. There are far more metals that are more precious than gold. A human being cannot explain to me why the obsession of gold, like it's almost in our DNA, so to speak. And when we go back and find the first writings ever talked about something coming from the sky and mining gold on this planet for use in their planet, as in their atmosphere for anti-solar reflection, so to speak, that does fit in. My point is there are a lot of things that do kind of mesh and are congruent that you don't have to stretch your imagination of, oh, they're little green men or, I think scientifically and just in our own insight, I can't explain why we are obsessed with gold on this planet. Well, there's maybe a reason to that. And you can just, as from my perspective of being a researcher, you literally start to see all of these things kind of mesh together where it's becoming like, I think we need to.
I have another one that played this. I learned everything from movies, by the way. Did you ever see the movie? It's either called The Titan or The Titans.
No.
What
and I'm a movie
do?
guy.
What do you do?
I watch documentaries and movies all day.
I cannot believe it.
I cannot, but listen. So
I'm not a big. I know this is crazy. Don't everyone? I'm not a big sci-fi guy.
Well, listen to this.
Go
This
ahead.
is good. So, at the beginning of the movie, they do a little kind of montage about how our planet is overpopulated, and our resources are.
I love it already.
Right, which of course none of that's going to happen, but
right.
Resources are being consumed. The planet's dying. There's a whole issue, and they're running a program. So like kind of like, let's say NASA goes and gets funding to branch off. And they invite 100 or some odd, the best, brightest, to come and be these astronauts to help establish a colony on Titan. So, Titan is one of the moons that is around
Uranus, Saturn?
No, I think it's Saturn.
Saturn, yeah.
Around Saturn, right? So, and it has ice. So there's 2 planets that are there that are fairly large. Gravity's pretty good, pretty solid gravity. Let's say, and they have water. Titan has water and probably liquid water beneath the surface, and they know that because of the gravity. The gravitational pull on Titan is really heavy as it goes around, and so Jupiter, and so it expands and contracts. When it expands and contracts, when it gets pressurized, the water escapes through these plumes. So they can see the water escaping. So they're like, "There's water." Well, it's covered with ice, but they know it's got to be liquid.
That's actually
water.
a fact, right? The
No,
plumes of water. Yeah,
Plumes of
right,
water.
right.
That's a
Okay, yeah.
fact.
Okay.
So they can see it now. Is it made
That's
up
amazing, by
of
the way.
water and methane and whatever? But there's ice for
right.
sure. There's ice
For sure.
So what they do is NASA brings these supposedly people that are going to help terraform, but are going to help colonize
Yeah,
it.
seed the planet, basically.
Right. But here's the problem: is that they're like it would be a colony that's not able to be. It has to be self-sustaining, and the way they decide to do that is they invite all these astronauts or whatever. Let's say these candidates. I don't know that they're astronauts, but candidates. They bring them in, they test them. Some of them you're a good test subject. Some aren't. They have a certain biological makeup they're looking for, and they start altering their DNA. They
wow.
eventually alter it to such a degree that they can't even be like they bring their families and everything. This takes like 6 months to a year. And eventually they get to a point where these people can't live outside of an environment that's almost identical to Titan's environment.
Right.
They have them living, and they're still going in there and they're changing their DNA. And many of them die.
It's awesome.
They end up with one guy, and then at the end of the movie, he's living on Titan. No suit, nothing. He's walking around on Titan. Now he looks vastly different. He's changed. He doesn't look human.
That is
anymore.
really interesting.
Very, very, and of course they're using certain DNA from fish and from all these. They're cross-pollinating his DNA and whatever to eventually get him to the point where they could drop him off there, and he drops off, and he's on there, and he is the Titan.
Right.
And so they're like, this is what we can do. This is how our species can survive by altering our species and populating Titan, and then someday maybe we can populate other places, and just trying to get the species to not die off.
Yeah, because you can't live in biodomes on planets forever and ever. You gotta,
But that's a very similar thing. Like, hey, let's drop off. Let's. So what if these aliens are saying, look, we want to colonize other planets, but we don't want to have to live, in domes.
Correct.
And so what we have to do is alter a species that's on the planet with our own DNA and colonize it that way. And maybe this is the way that they're doing that.
Right.
Something to think about.
Our evolutionary jump is there's a 60,000 year period where our brains expanded that evolutionary wise, they can't explain that 60,000 is overnight evolutionary, and speaking in evolutionary terms. So what happened to cause that jump and that mass, the mass in our brains? Yes, eating protein, which they think was, caused because fire. Who taught them to to make fire, but it's just all of these questions. The chromosomes being capped, the jump in our evolution. It's just there's no reason why we don't have hair. We're the only animal on the planet that has to make clothes to survive in the environment. Our backs. Everyone's got back problems because we're not meant to be here.
It's funny, every time you have a jump kind of in evolution, the new evolutionary track, right? The new species immediately kills off the old one.
Right. Right.
If you look at them, they're like, this species evolved from this species, and then they killed off the old one. This one evolved, and they killed off the old one.
And that's the government's worry with aliens is that, every time, like you said, Columbus coming to, to Americas and wipes out the entire indigenous population.
Yeah. By accident, sometimes just by accident, right? Like they came and they brought they have no
immune system, or smallpox and measles and
you hear how many, and it's the amount of Indians that died just by crossing our paths. when we came here is it's not like 10%. It's like 60% of them just fucking got wiped out. They're dead.
I'm going to
because
chop
you
this.
shook hands.
Yeah, I'm going to chop this figure. So people out there that are experts, just bear with me. They said the Mesoamerican population, so like, Mexico, Central America, South America, about 150 million people when Columbus arrived and before the Spaniards and whatnot, and about 50 million were wiped out, if not even more. But they said for the 50 million to be wiped out, you have to wipe out another, another like 20 million, so they don't repopulate and regenerate, and it was just astronomical.
And this is just from disease?
Just from disease, some warfare, but just disease, and the infestation of Europeans just destroyed the Mesoamerica. I mean, just obliterated it.
There's 3 comments on the last video that I think are kind of similar to what you guys have been talking about. I'll just read them, and you might have some thoughts or not. Either this is all pure bullshit or the pure truth. Both are equally as terrifying. My grandfather was a radar operator during the Cold War, and he told me that he's seen UAPs on his radar screen, and his commander ordered him not to tell or record this event. He told his grandson that when he was in his 70s and he didn't have too much to lose. I had a face-to-face contact, eyewitness, life-changing event in 2008. The highest irony is delusional people calling me delusional for shouting this from the rooftops. So I just thought that was interesting because you kind of have all touched on all 3 of those points throughout this.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because
those are the top comments that are liked by most, everybody.
I'm proud to look you in the eye and say, I have never said this. I know this film is real. I'm at about 75%. I can look you in the eye and tell you, I will die on the sword of this was filmed by the government because of this whole 16 millimeter difficulty. And he is right. Colby's right. If this was filmed by the government in their magic PSYOP program, making a fake alien interview, that's more terrifying than them just, filming an actual alien. The fact that the government would spend our money to desensitize us or to use propaganda or a PSYOP on us is more alarming to me than them filming an actual being that most of us know are in our universe or in our galaxy. So it's a great, interesting that somebody else kind of said the same thing. As somebody said, the story is more terrifying than what actually is. How the government has covered this up and all that they've done is way more terrifying than aliens have been coming here for 10,000 years. Who cares? I mean, not who cares, but but that this our government for 70 years has gone to the lengths that they have and the money they spent and the lives that they have extinguished is terrifying.
You got a documentary produced, right?
Yeah,
and it's
I can give the
releasing-
website and how people can get it and.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we just
So the documentary, came out on Thanksgiving, but will be available for 52 weeks. It's a streaming cloud. So if you live in Australia, you can still watch it. It's not pay-per-view in America. It's pay-per-view on the streaming cloud. So, and the website is huntingvictor.com. It's got the pay-per-view link. It's like $8. It's, we're not trying to hurt anybody. We try to make it as cost-effective as possible. And I'm going to do something that no one has really done in any documentary since the advent of films or TV. I'm going to allow myself for people to contact me for a year to ask me any questions or follow up on this documentary. So I will be available via my email to engage with people if they have any questions about any part of my documentary, which I don't think anybody's ever really done to the point that I plan on doing it for a year. I think I owe that to the UFO community.
How long is the documentary?
About an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
And believe me, I can't stand hearing myself speak anymore. But even when I watch it, you're at like an hour and 10 minutes. You're like, wait a minute. This, it's B-roll. It's documents. It's
an interview. Do you interview other people?
No, it's basically like a sit-down conversation with Michael Carter from Ancient Aliens, a TV show on the History Channel. But in our conversation together in a very professional setting and professionally produced, we show you the documents, the names, the dates, B-roll, video, film. We go through the chronology. It's done very well. And we show you photos of these men, photos of one of the Carthusian monks, which is people went crazy when we showed the photo of an actual alleged telepath in this program, this interrogation program, in the emails that were sent to me, and other people that have backed up this story. A man by the name of Nico, who claims he was shown this film with my alien, but it was 56 minutes long. And he hints at who showed him the film. A Brooklyn-born, old, highly educated scientist, and we find out who that was. He worked for the CIA, and it was the head of the Russian KGB propaganda unit for the CIA in the Cold War in the 80s. We found that guy too. So the conversation is startling, and we tell you who Victor is in his whole bio. I think this is just going to just open up. I think it's going to break the internet. I think it's going to lead to so many more investigations and conversations, and I'm proud of that. God damn it, I am the only documentary that has given names, dates, photos, videos. There is no, well, get to us next week and we'll tell you we think. And I found Bigfoot. I found the missing girl. Right, I'm showing you a conclusion, and I've been watching documentaries since '73. I've never seen one documentary that just, for God's sakes, end the conversation. Who's Jack the Ripper? Where do we find Bigfoot? Did you find the missing girl? I'm using a metaphor.
Yeah.
I do that, and I'm proud of that.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Listen, go to the description box. We are going to leave the link to Alien Interview Case Closed. Also, do me a favor. If you like the video, please share it. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. And also, please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. We put Patreon exclusive content on Patreon. So if you want to watch videos of some of the stuff that didn't make the cut, or if you want to watch videos that are uncensored, please go to Patreon. Once again, thank you very much. Go in the description box. Hit the link. Thank you very much. See ya.